Okay, we'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, December 15th to order. And of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. I'm going to move the agenda amended to include the delegation from Hillary Wong and to remove item Q1 from the agenda. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would like to have a deferral of item H5 to the April 27th regular meeting of council.
Yeah, is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on that deferral amendment? No, seeing none, I'll call the question on that deferral amendment. That carries unanimously. So, Ms. Bauer, I just want to confirm the delegation request C3 was refiled for the first meeting in January?
This one was refiled for January? Is that the one you mean? Or
Sorry, I
we
can't
also-
hear. Is your mic on?
Yes, I'll move closer. This one was refiled for January?
January 26th?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to move another amendment to defer, let's see here, notice of motion Q7 to the January 26th meeting. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, call the question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Sure, I forgot anything. I think that about covers it. Any other amendments or motions? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the agenda as amended. Oh, I'm sorry, actually, we did not deal, I think I forgot, we did not deal with the additional delegation request. So can I move reconsideration of adoption of the agenda as amended? I just can do it automatically, Councillor Ferguson. Yeah, so I'll do that. So that's back on the floor. We have another amendment to make to add another delegation. I don't want to pronounce this incorrectly. Mr. Nagoyu. Okay, so I got it wrong, but we'll get that clarified. Is there a seconder to adding that delegation? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion? All those call the question.
Yeah, okay.
That carries with Councillor Rint, Mayor Woodward opposed. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion or amendments? Seeing none, call the question now. The agenda as amended. And that carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt the meeting minutes to December 1st. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Call the question on those minutes. That carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt the public hearing meeting minutes of December 1st. Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Call the question on those minutes. That carries unanimously. So we can go move on to our first delegation. Man who needs no introduction, Dylan, come forward. Thanks for coming here today. Congratulations on a great effort for the bandits as well. So please go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. It's my first time here presenting, so excuse any technical difficulties. Let me just get this set up here. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity Today's presentation is meant to just bring awareness. So I want to thank your worship and all councilors here today. And if you see any opportunities throughout this presentation where potentially you want to get involved or there's opportunities to connect in the community, I'm very, very supportive of that. So first want to start with, Bandits are BC's professional basketball team. We represent the region and the province on a national stage, playing in an exciting spring and summer basketball league that attracts families, youth, and new fans to the sport. And you may have saw recently one of our own in 2025, Kyle Mangus. He just signed a deal with the NBA's San Antonio Spurs. That makes us the only CEBL franchise now to have 3 players go from our organization now on to the NBA, 3 years in a row, actually. So yeah, our goal here as a franchise is to be a hub for elite talent on the basketball level, provide a premium and accessible experience for our community, and have meaningful community impact. Okay, so since we've relocated to the Township of Langley in 2022, our league has grown. We've expanded from 7 teams now to 10 across the country. All 10 teams are privately owned, and the league is now recognized as a pathway for Canadians to get to the national team and to get into the NBA now, with Bandits leading that charge. So here we are at Langley Event Center in 2025, arguably one of the best live sporting experiences in the province. We really stand behind that. In the league, we are second in attendance behind Winnipeg. They play in an NHL-sized venue. We're very proud of the fact that what we've created here at Langley Event Center in partnership with the Township of Langley. It's not just about basketball. It's about the facility quality. It's about the fan experience. It's about the accessibility that is available at Langley Event Center. And it's also the partnership with Langley Event Center that has allowed us to create one of these special live sporting experiences in the province and to have the second best attendance in the league. So to give you some insights on our growth since relocation, we have had year-over-year growth. Our audience includes young families, youth teams, newcomers to Canada, and a lot of people attending their first live sporting event. In 2025, we had 7 sellouts, and we set a record in 2025 for the largest single-ticketed event in 2025 at Langley Event Center. And this growth is not earned, it's earned and not assumed. We are doing a lot in the community to make sure that our growth isn't accidental. It's because really the community sees themselves in the team, and basketball is one of the most accessible and inclusive sports in BC. We really prioritize belonging and representation and connection, and it's not just about wins and losses. So our programs, as you can see here on the screen, we've donated over 7,000 tickets to not-for-profits and foundations in the region. We host an annual school day game at Langley Event Center, welcoming nearly 4,700 students from across the region. Our head coach, Coach Kyle, has just this past year attended 77 different schools to provide his services for free to middle schools and high schools across the province, a lot of them here in the Township of Langley. That includes also 12 free coaches clinics, and last year we did 83 community events. So we don't just show up to these community events, we're super intentional. We try to really connect with the communities, listen to them before acting, and learn how we can better serve. And these 3 games are an example of the connections we've made with the Indigenous community, the Filipino community, and the South Asian communities. And this approach has really guided us on how we approach our school visits, our cultural celebrations, and our partnerships. So this approach is why we are also hosting the Junior All-Native Tournament. It is one of the most significant Indigenous basketball tournaments in the country. Hosting it is about trust, respect, and creating space, not just ownership. So we are honored to support this event, not lead it. And this moment is quite special for the Township of Langley. We are bringing together nearly 1,200 players, over 100 First Nation communities from across BC. And no word of a lie, over nearly 10,000 travelers are going to be coming to the township in March 15th to 21st in 2026. So this event is about sport, it's about culture, it's about pride and connection, and this event really aligns with our belief as an organization. I believe the Township of Langley as well, believing that sport is a platform for unity and opportunity. So we're proud to represent this region nationally and grateful for the partnership with the Township and Langley Event Center, and are committed to continuing to grow the game and the community together. Thank you.
We'll start off with questions from council. Councillor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and thanks, Dylan. Always good to see you. And I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to commend you and the organization, because I know you've, I believe, recently won an award for Executive of the Year in the league. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
it's cool for me to be able to compliment you, since the games between Mowat and Brookswood once upon a time were probably a little heated. So I could pass on the kind words from my brother in that regard as well. But congratulations, what you guys do in terms of the court program that you have. I know Councillor Bailey and I really appreciated getting to learn a little bit more about that program and how that might be expanded out in our community at some point, and what the partnership could be there. And obviously the community games that you guys host is pretty special to watch. So congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Pratt.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, Councillor Pratt was one of the folks that were users of the Langley Event Center, and I've never played a sport there, a game there. I know my son is playing a bit of hockey there. I did want to say that I'm going to go back to talking to you prior to the meeting, Dylan, is that back in the day when there was a knock on our door from Jason Winslade, who's up in the crowd there, and the council of the day said they wanted to build a center there, an event center, and we sat in camera for about 12 months, figured out how we were going to do it. And we called our group the Three Amigos. The three people took on the challenge, although the council member was longer. And Mayor Alberts at the time decided, well, we're going to go ahead, and he let us Three Amigos run with it. We built the event center, and next door we built the Building B and put a number of other facilities into play. And certainly I compliment you and your group and the Giants and others, because at that time, we never knew the professional basketball would ever come to the Langley Event Center. Let alone BC, but the Langley Event Center. And what you've done, you and your group, and the Giants as well, but you and your group, you're working with young people, working with, I understand you're working with the natives as well. It's an all-native junior tournament you hold every year?
So the Junior All Native, quickly, it's again one of the largest Indigenous sport events in the country. 1,200 players, 10,000 travelers. It actually rotates from the north to the Okanagan to the Vancouver Coastal, and we were honored to be voted. The coaches in Kelowna this past year of Jan, all in favor, voted for the Bandits to host it. We are one of the first non-Indigenous groups to ever co-host this event. So it's a really big honor for us. But yes, it will be the first time it's ever coming to Township of Langley.
So I have actually talked to some of the folks and teachers, because I used to teach school. But as I say, I'm not a basketball person myself, and they are nothing but thrilled with what they're getting from basketball and how much help they're getting from your organization. I want to really compliment you, because when we build these facilities, we build them so they can be used. And to compliment the people of the day, the council of the day. I was one of them, but certainly a lot of other people, Mr. Winslade and his team, that we were able to put together this facility that is recognized as an excellent facility for sports throughout the country there. And again, thank you for coming, and I hope to get some of the games, even though I'm not a basketball, but I certainly enjoy what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Councillor Martins?
Thank you. Hi, Dylan. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to, again, just affirm the congratulations, the kudos to you and the team, and all the work that you're doing in our community. Like you said, it didn't just magically happen, and I see it. And as a family, a basketball family, I still mourn the loss of the Vancouver Grizzlies. I was at their last game. It was very sad. And then our next possible place to go watch basketball was Seattle. And again, I was there for their last game. Basketball, professional basketball is a long way away from here. And there's a lot of kids in Langley that love basketball, that dream of playing basketball and going big. And by creating this program here in Langley and developing it the way you have in the outreach, I feel you've reinvigorated that dream for our local kids, that there's a future. There's something they can accomplish. And I love that. And I love the words you used earlier, belonging, representation, and connection. And you are doing a fabulous job, and it's no surprise that you're selling out the arena, and carry on. And as a parent, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Martins, and we have to really thank our team ownership and our partnership with Langley Event Center and Township of Langley that have really allowed us to create this platform here.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Kula, for coming today. It's so awesome to have you here. Congratulations to you and your team for doing such great things in our community. Great community partners, and really appreciate that. I had a question just around where most of your players are recruited from. Where do they come from? And what sort of engagement do your players have? I know you talked about your coach and some other members of your staff. What engagement do your players have with our community when they're here? And also, do some of them stay in the off season? Just a little bit about your team.
Yeah, great question, Councillor Whitmarsh. So our season runs April through August. A lot of our players are currently playing in the NBA or NBA G League or playing professionally overseas, and their seasons typically finish April, May. So that is why sometimes you see some roster turnover where we start with one roster and then finish with the second.
Right.
When our players are in market, they're equally as excited even as our head coach to get out in the community. And a lot of our community programs that we're running through April through August, our players are making those appearances, whether it is in the elementary schools or secondary schools, or working with local not-for-profits and community foundations. Our players are excited to be involved with our organization. They see the passion that we have for the community, and that's part of the reason why they want to come play here with the Bandits. And when they also feel that connection to the fans in the venue, it gives them even more reasoning to want to get out in the community and give that same energy back that the fans are giving us at Langley Event Center. And sometimes players do stay, but I think the punishment to us for being such a strong organization on the development side is all of our players end up going to better opportunities after they play with us. We're the, again, only franchise that has sent 3 players now in a row to the NBA, but we're also the only franchise 3 seasons in a row where every single one of our players signed a professional contract, again, after playing with us professionally overseas or in the NBA or in the NBA G League.
Right. So just curious, is there an expectation or a requirement for a certain number of Canadians to be on the team?
Yeah, so our rosters can be anywhere between 10 to 12 players, and we need to have at least 5 Canadians professionally on the team. And at all times, a lot of people don't know this, but at least 2 Canadians on the court at all times.
Oh, interesting. Okay, well, that's really great. Thanks so much for what you're doing. Really appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I come from the stick sports, so unless I've got a stick I can hit someone with, I never enjoyed basketball. In fact, I was banned for 2 years in high school with a little too much contact. So I never really paid too much attention to basketball until you guys showed up on the thing, and I see you everywhere in the community, and that got my attention. And what I really like about what you guys are doing and your team is that I don't concentrate on the pro sports. Normally I kind of ignore them. I like seeing a sport where kids can play, especially kids that are having a tough time economically now. And I can't think of a sport other than soccer that is more accessible for kids. And with your profile here, I've seen an awful lot of kids in the outdoor courts playing, and I take my hat off to you with your community activism and encouraging kids not to just to aim to become pro sports, but to be members of team sports and enjoy playing sports for the the real reason, and that's for the enjoyment of it. So thank you very much for your community involvement.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. I did play lacrosse as well, a lot of crossover with lacrosse and basketball. And quickly on basketball, right now with BC high school sports, boys basketball is the #1 participated team sport. #3 is girls basketball. And yeah, for participation across the country, soccer would be #1, but basketball is there at #2. And that provides us with such a great opportunity to, beyond the actual game of professional basketball, is to continue finding ways to make the game inclusive and accessible in the community. And Councillor Pratt mentioned our court projects campaign. Yeah, we have refurbished nearly 100 basketball courts across the province. We've built 5 courts in 5 different Indigenous communities. We refurbished a court just with the city of Pitt Meadows 2 summers ago in honor of the fallen RCMP officer. And then also recently with Grant Park and City of Vancouver. And we're looking forward to doing one soon with the Township of Langley, because I completely agree. Not everyone can even play basketball, even as inclusive and accessible as it is. So how do we as an organization go to those community free spaces to enhance those and to increase the participation outside? So yeah, thank you for those comments.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that happened. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, and one other thing I like about about basketball is it's an accessible sport. Wheelchair basketball is very heavily utilized for people who have a little mobility challenges. So yeah, I'm actually paying a little more attention to basketball now because of you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, we are super connected with BC Wheelchair Basketball, BC Deaf Association of Sport as well, and Special Olympics BC is coming here to Township of Langley in a partnership with Langley School District. I believe in May to run a provincial jamboree in which we are in big partnership with as well.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I know you've already said, thank you. One more other point. I know you covered school visits and community event attendance. My question, did you set some sort of record with the Langley Event Center for attendance?
Yeah, in 2025, we're very proud of that. Actually, the photo I showed here on slide 3, that is the game itself that broke that record just for the year. Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have courtside seating, we have access to the suites and the full bowl and even standing room, and the game here on June 27th was that record night.
If somebody was to ask me when we opened the doors of the event center that the most attendance for the facility would be professional basketball of any sort, I would be very surprised, because we're hockey, and you guys have certainly set the pace, and it really is appreciated. The kids like it, the teachers like it, you guys like it, the parents like it. I go on and on and on. Thank you for coming, Dylan.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I appreciate your delegation as well, and I noted it's from when you relocated, so, I appreciate coming here today, talking about what your presence in Langley is getting deeper and better all the time, and I've noticed it, and I know many others have as well, and deeply appreciate the community involvement, and also deeply appreciate the option to provide entertainment like you do at the Langley Event Center. I think it's a fabulous addition to the inventory of options here for not only residents of the township, but Langley City, Surrey, Abbotsford, and any that wish to travel as far away. And speaking of that, do you have an idea of what percentage is coming from where? If you could go over that again, coming from where to see games?
Yeah, we do. So that data is from 2025. So 28% still come from Abbotsford, Mission, Chilliwack. 46% make up Township of Langley and City of Surrey. And then beyond that, Burnaby and the Tri-Cities, we're at 18%, and then the Greater Vancouver region, 14%. Actually, we have season ticket members from the Vancouver Island, we have season ticket members from Squamish, we have season ticket members from the United States. So there's a lot of excitement across the whole region, and we look to also as well, in addition to our games on special weekends, in partnership with Langley Event Centers, host provincial basketball tournaments for boys and girls, separate weekends, and those tournaments have really brought a lot of people from not even outside those regions. We welcome teams from the Okanagan, from northern BC and the islands. So that's not represented here. That might be the other. But yes, the attendance is quite. We're quite happy with it.
Yeah, and it's good because I brought you back to this slide because 46% Langley Surrey. Do you have a breakdown between Langley Surrey?
Yeah. So it's I have it here. So it's 28% Langley, and then the remainder. Sorry.
And so it's a harder argument to make, but I can't, I'm remiss, my last question can't be about the name. Can we somehow get you to change it from Vancouver to Langley?
You know, that's why on the first slide, Your Worship, I did put Bandits basketball. I was trying to hopefully avoid that question here today, folks. But you got me. You know, the name, and that is why we have branded Bandits basketball for really everything we do in the province, because we are BC's team, and Vancouver is used more for like the national stage and for international play. But maybe one day that'll be a discussion we'll have another day.
Okay, well, I'll take a maybe one day.
Take a maybe.
But I certainly don't single out just basketball for that. I bring that up with all the other professional sports teams, except for one as well. And all kidding aside, I love the branding, Bandits basketball, and I love the presence of the team here in the township. And you know, there's other options for you throughout the region to locate, and I find it deeply honoring and special that you choose to establish and run the team here out of the township of Langley, given the facilities that have been built by prior administrations and members, mayors, and councils, once still here. You know, the vision they had to develop a facility like that at the time that they did, and here we are today. And I think it's fabulous, and looking forward to the future, and very much appreciate you coming here today.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I do want to say, when every franchise in the CBL does come to a Bandits game, there's always highly positive on the facilities in the community. So, yeah, thank you to everyone and everyone before you. That set this up for us.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Let's move to the next delegation, Hillary Wong. Introduce yourself to council, and appreciate you coming here today.
Yeah, my name is Hillary Wong. I live along Old Jail Road. I'm one of the residents who's within the boundary of the Fraser Height Employment Land Plan. And I wanted to come today and just speak to council and to everyone to say that I fully support this plan and that I speak on behalf of myself and on a large number of immediate neighbors within the defined boundary. That's short and sweet, all I have to say, actually.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate it. I'm familiar with your location, and you and I have talked on a few occasions, so certainly appreciate you coming here and reminding council of that. If there's any questions from council? No, seeing none. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
And then third and final delegation, I'm not going to try to pronounce it this time. Levin, please come forward. I'm going to have to get a phonetic spelling, and appreciate, sorry again for butchering that, but thanks again for coming here today. We have heard from you before on the same topic, so, and we did receive an email from you this morning.
Yes.
So, but thank you again for coming in person, and please go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor Woodward and Council, for providing me with another opportunity to speak about the Energy Step Code and the Zero Carbon Step Code requirements. My name is Levin Jogu. I'm here representing Van City, one of Canada's largest credit unions with over 570,000 members across BC. I'm here to encourage Council not to adopt in-stream protections for up to 50 projects or 3,441 homes in Langley. We believe that this will help deliver safer homes, improve energy efficiency, maintain long-term affordability for residents, homeowners, and our members. As a financial cooperative, we use our assets to build stronger, more resilient communities for people. We support our members by providing loans to homeowners at preferred rates to renovate their homes and to make energy efficient upgrades like window or building envelope improvements, or to buy a heat pump. We know we can't do it alone, which is why we work with government partners such as Township of Langley and others to encourage them to put in place policies like the Energy Step Code and Zero Carbon Step Code to ensure homes that we build today are built to last and don't need costly retrofits down the line. I appreciate the clarification from the Mayor through this referral motion that Council is not considering a wholesale rollback of green building standards. However, we remain concerned that the implementation of in-stream protections for multifamily projects will result in too many homes built to a lower and ultimately less safe standard. The current Langley building bylaw requires heat pumps in multifamily projects to provide overheating protection in new homes, BC Building Code requirement. Additionally, heat pumps also filter outside air while providing cooling. This feature is particularly necessary to protect older adults and children advised to stay inside during smoky wildfire season. Critically, reverting to a lower standard does not exempt builders from the provincial requirement to provide overheating protection in at least one room, meaning projects that use natural gas heating must have an air conditioner, resulting in higher energy consumption and higher energy costs for homeowners. A staff review of Langley's building permit data demonstrates that many builders are already achieving Energy Step Code 4 and Zero Carbon Step Code Energy Level 3 for Part 9 buildings, due in part to Langley's extensive industry engagement over the last 5 years. Staff analysis showed that 93% of the more than 1,700 Part 9 building permits issued since 2018 had mechanical systems that met or exceeded Step 4 of the Energy Step Code, and many doing so voluntarily. This result is a testament to the outstanding work by Langley staff to support industry through education and engagement, as well as builders who apply best practices to meet requirements while actively managing project costs amid a challenging economic environment. In closing, we encourage you to maintain the current approach without the unnecessary transitional provisions. We believe that your leadership on this matter will position Langley to continue to build safe and affordable homes for new residents and our members in the community. Thanks.
All right, Councillor Ferguson.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Njoyu.
Jogu.
Okay, I think I've got it.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Hey, no worries.
I noticed that I'm a member of Van City. I see your address at 183 Terminal. That's the head office of Van City, is it not?
Yes.
Are you like a board member or board chair?
No, I should have introduced myself more properly. I'm a government relations lead for the Van City Group.
So does Van City, I mean, I've been there, I've met there, I know some of their board members. Do they have a board policy regarding step code?
We have well, last time I spoke at council, we talked about our 2021 commitment to be net zero by 2040. So just, by way of explanation, our emissions come from the built environment, from homes that we mortgage, right? So
So Van City has members all throughout the province, maybe the coast, maybe the country.
Mostly.
Do you have, like, speaking notes, or they send all sorts of stuff out to us? Do you have a policy you can send us that's been signed and approved by the board that we can take a look at?
I can
I
certainly
mean, I know
provide-
step codes, I'm talking about an actual policy that they do not accept certain step codes,
I can
including their own buildings.
Yes, we're in the process of decarbonizing buildings and our branches as well, but certainly I can provide you with some information endorsed by our board and our members. We're a member-driven organization. We have an AGM every year. We have boards. We're accountable to our executive leadership team as well as our board. So yeah, certainly I'm more than happy to provide that.
No, but thank you for coming. When a person appears before me, have the address of the corporation as their address, it appears to me they're speaking on behalf of that organization. And the policy they speak of is the exact policy you're representing. I just want to make sure what SEP code Van City, in the past, every time I've known the board, they usually stay away from things that are controversial or things that aren't written in stone for them.
Yeah, we certainly don't see this as controversial. We believe that we need to work with our partners to achieve net zero and to build stronger communities for our members and your constituents as well. We've worked with a number of other, and I've appeared at, or my team have appeared at other municipalities. We've worked with Maple Ridge, Pitt Meadows, Vancouver, Burnaby. We had a 3-year pilot project with the city of Burnaby where we supported them in their OCP review from, I believe, 2022 to 2024, and did that with member funds as well. So this is deep engagement with municipalities and the province federally as well is something that we do on our member priorities. So whether it be climate, affordable housing, equity and reconciliation, as well as support for the cooperative economy. So we're a multifaceted organization. We're a member-driven organization, and we're happy to work with all members. And
Thank you.
Yeah, seeing no other, certainly appreciate the the desire to see lower emissions in more buildings more quickly. Given the council, I think, decided to move more quickly than the provincial standard, you're now asking us to not be as far ahead of the province as we are right now. You're asking us to stay as far ahead of the province as we are today and not implement any in-stream protection for those that may have started projects prior to the township arbitrarily implementing a quicker timeline than the province. So I just want to clear in your ask. Your ask is for council to not extend that in-stream protection.
If I may, I would say that the report outlined quite a wide breadth of in-stream protection. So 50 projects, I think, is kind of a large number. And I think, to me personally, that there some questions remain as to, a multi-phase project, say one building on one corner versus another building next to it. Are they going to have the same requirements or same level of safety or use? So, yeah, I believe that, I'll leave it to council to ascertain the level of in-stream protection that they have. I don't think that it should be indefinite. I agree that there's a timeline there, and I believe that this could be narrowed while achieving all of the outcomes that you're seeking.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And in regards to that, I mean, is Van City making similar advocacy appeals to the province then to accelerate implementation of STEP code versus just the Township of Langley?
We made a presentation to the Clean BC review over the summer where we advocated for the same, yes.
And the challenge I think we've kind of learned a little bit about in communication with the staff and some people that got caught in this is building permits don't have in-stream protection in the similar manner that rezoning applications do. And trying to find, I think, the right balance between the two, wanting to do a little bit better, but also then potentially being inequitable with other municipalities that aren't doing that, such as the city of Surrey, where, we hear that potentially housing is more affordable in Surrey now than it is in the township. What do you say to that?
I've met with councillors in Surrey. They mentioned that they have 25,000 units just ready to go, right? So it's not the so-called environmental regulations that are in place. It's more macroeconomic issues, labor cost, material cost, the global economic environment as well, interest rates. So as and I recognize that the agenda has ACCs on it. I'm not going to get into that, but those are other large factors that we've found in some research that we've sponsored that see whether a project's able to move forward or not necessarily this.
Yeah, so the other interesting aspect, which I think it's important to note, is the BC Building Code implements a level playing field for all municipalities in the province for a number of initiatives. This having been one of them, but then some municipalities are accelerating and maybe some aren't. Is there any concern on your part that the province actually delays implementation of STEP Code 4 further than where it is right now, which is sometime within 2027? Do you have any concerns that they actually delay that further, now potentially creating even more in-stream problems for the township? Do you have any concern? Are you attempting to lobby to have that not happen, such that there are rumors out there, around the region here and there that's going to be extended, and it's going to be extended potentially because the power's not there. There's a lot of challenges with electrification of entire aspects of the economy, whether it's transit, whether it's housing, all kinds of other buildings. Is the electricity generation capacity there? And so I think that conversation is going on right now. And if implementation of STEP Code is deferred at the provincial level, does that make housing in the township less affordable for everyday residents? What do you say to that?
I would say that we have to act in concert with the province. I was last week was really encouraged by what I saw at the First Nations Energy Summit, where they're talking about doing energy projects, Indigenous power projects within their traditional territories to provide, as much power as we get from Site C. There was a lot of excitement in the room for those investments that are coming online over the next number of years. I've heard the concern about the lack of power and issues around BC Hydro's capacity to deliver. Met with BC Hydro. BC Hydro is more than welcome to, has presented at a number of councils where they, go over in detail their investments that they're planning to make in the community over the next 10 years. They have a $36 billion capital plan, and are looking to upgrade transmission facilities throughout the regions. And in terms of the province delaying or moving back from its leadership on climate with respect to buildings, I think council here has an opportunity to show leadership and has shown leadership really. If the support that you provide for homeowners who are looking to switch to a heat pump, again, the education that staff provide to builders, there's an ability now to provide a step like a high quality building at similar or lower cost to a traditional build. I didn't have a chance to address you earlier, Councillor Mitmarsh, but I grew up in Aldergrove. The house I lived in, built in 1984. If you don't open that, we face north as well. So it doesn't matter how many fans you had plugged in, it was just never cool. My basement, or my bedroom was in the basement, and that's where I hung out to kind of keep cool. We perhaps got an air conditioner, but the electrical system couldn't handle it. And, growing up middle class, there was no money to, do $12,000 to redo your entire electrical system. On a personal level, I think that new homes should be built to a higher standard so we don't have that. As folks get older, our smokier summers come, can't go outside, so you're stuck inside. So that means you have to have a humidifier, you have to have an air conditioner, you have to have all of these systems in place to ensure that we stay safe. And, what I didn't mention in the BC Building Code change of, I believe it was 2022, the overheating protection. It's because 691 people died in their homes because of inadequate cooling. And, I definitely applaud the government and municipalities for moving to implement this requirement so that doesn't happen again. So what I see in this in-stream protection is a bit of a two-tier system in that others that applied, say, April 2nd, 2025, are building to a high standard, but if you had a development permit in, say, 2019, sat on it for a few years, and then now finally decide to move forward with it, you're building to a lower standard, and I think it, again, is a bit unfair in that respect. But.
Yeah, and so that's going to be solved by the provincial implementation, where you wouldn't be able to do that, right? That if you do not move forward with your project by mid-2027, that would solve that problem, right? That's the way the structure works.
I absolutely agree with you.
So you couldn't sit on it for years, as you just said, right?
I absolutely agree with you that the province does need to show greater leadership in implementing a province-wide requirement for this. They've done it before. We're hopeful they'll do it again. If you look at the provincial political playing field right now, it's chaos. So,
I really appreciate I just have one last question, because I don't lobby on it, and don't have the day-to-day working on just that one thing. So I appreciate being able to ask you a couple of questions, because I think to a lot of mayors who I speak to, the deferral of the EV mandate was a great signal that electrification is not prepared. And what do you think?
My understanding on the EV mandate is that there's a desire to align with the provincial mandate the federal requirements. We can either look to the future, and future is electrification and electric cars, or the past, which is using the same systems that we've had for 120 years. I again will refer to the township has been really forward thinking with this. The proposal that you brought forward in 2023, the incentives that you have for homeowners to implement heat pumps is something that we do as an organization. We provide lower cost loans for homeowners up to $40,000. We're in a tough economic time, I would say, and you're seeing a lot of municipalities and provinces and the federal government step back from some of this leadership, but we're talking about long-term savings, long-term affordability, and building for things to last. So
And
that's
with that, we'll leave it there because I
Yes.
certainly appreciate that that's the goal very much. So
Yes.
thank you very much for coming, very much appreciate it. And good to see you again.
thank you. Thank you again.
So, yes, move on to reports to council. Salmon River Dike Upgrade Project Crown Land Tenure Application, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E1? Seeing none, call the question on E1. That carries unanimously. E2, policy revision, snow and ice control. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on E2? Seeing none, call the question on E2. That carries unanimously. Item E3, Smith Reservoir Park Park Public Engagement Report, moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion, questions? Councillor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Was really pleased to see the results of the public engagement. Obviously, it's a pretty unique park concept that staff went to the public with and got a lot of feedback on. I tend to really like the direction it's going in, but there was a lot of feedback specifically around shade, specifically around uses that are family-friendly year-round. And so whenever there are no other speakers, I'll have a referral motion to staff.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I had a question on this. Well, first of all, I do think the plan looks really great. I like the creativity of it. My question was around, being that it's a rooftop design, was around accommodations made for those that don't have the same kind of mobility. What kind of accessibility is there for people to get up to this rooftop park? Is there an elevator? What kind of access do they have? So maybe a question to staff through that.
Through the mayor to Councillor Whitmarsh, the one side on the northeast corner of the building has a ramp all the way from the street up to it at about a 5% grade, so it's fully accessible.
Okay, so that 5%, that seems relatively steep to push someone up, or for someone to have to.
That's
you know,
an
get up to-
accessible grade.
That is the grade code?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay. Thanks for that information. Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, just a quick question, if I may, through the chair to staff. Obviously, it's a Metro Vancouver Jericho Reservoir and completed in 2022. We're doing this as the kind of a park. And how much involvement is Metro Vancouver in it, and money, action, donations, et cetera, if I may, through the chair?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Ferguson, I believe Metro's involvement is quite limited in nature. We just have a legal agreement with Metro in relation to this, but the actual financial contribution, I believe, is very limited.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yeah, I want to reiterate before the referral that the proposal that staff took to the public, I thought was pretty darn cool. There's not a lot of places that I can think of in the Lower Mainland that would be like this park with all the components, the food and bev, the fun games, the walking track, all of these different pieces. But in the engagement, there was specific mentions to increased shading, increased year-round accessibility, despite any inclement weather. So the referral would specifically be to refine the Smith Reservoir Park plan to make greater accommodations for year-round accessibility and for more family-friendly activities. So moved.
Seconded by Councillor Rint. Yeah, go ahead.
I probably spoke too much before I made the motion, so I think the motion speaks for itself.
All right, is there any other discussion on the referral? Seeing none, call the question on that referral. That carries unanimously. Item E4, Facilities Capital Budget Transfer Request. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on E4? Seeing none, call the question on E4. That carries unanimously. Item E5, Ms. Bauer, can you please bring that up? I'll just move that as amended. So to move the recommendation slightly amended, seconded by Councillor Rint. I've bolded the items to adjust a little more flexibility for additional development projects and a slight reduction in the cap just to widen it out for more potential applicants. Councillor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I was pleased to be a part of bringing this forward to council, and I'm really excited to see the report come back. I think it's one of those things that, again, we're doing something a little bit forward-thinking and unique here in the township that will hopefully move some projects forward, and looking forward to seeing the results of the pilot.
Councillor Martins?
Yeah, thank you. And if I can, through the chair to staff, I got a few questions about this. I can go one at a time if that's easier. First of all, so now we're looking at 10 land developments. Have any of them been identified already?
Dear Worship, Council Martins, this would be progressive, future looking. So we would look at projects that would be new applications.
Okay. And is there some established selection criteria?
Dear Worship, to Council Martins, the criteria itself is within page 3 of the report. We do have a first selected basis, security deposit range, and also the acceptable surety bond insurance would have to be credit rating of A+, A1, or A high, as high as applicable. And there is also certain security deposits required and acceptance of final drawings.
Okay. Final question then. Is there an application process? Is this staff-led reaching out to potential people or vice versa? How will it be made known to potential applicants?
Through your worship to Councillor Martins, the report itself is public. Our understanding is most of the development committee would be familiar with this report. The process itself would be that the developer would request using surety bonds as a form of security, and then that would be a development variance permit, and that development variance permit would be approved by council. And the rationale for seeking a development variance permit is that the current subdivision and development services bylaw does not allow surety bonds as an alternative form of security, so that's hence why they would proceed forward with a development variance permit for council's consideration and potential approval.
All right. Thank you very much.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yes, thank you. Some of my questions were similar to what Councillor Martins had, but maybe just to add to that through the chair. Just to confirm what I think I heard was that this would only be available for new applications on a first-come, first-served basis as long as they've met this criteria?
Dear Worship, Councillor Whitmarsh, that is correct theoretically, due to the fact that applications that have proceeded, they would have to come back for a development variance permit. But we would be looking at, from a staffing perspective, new applications and first in, first selected basis.
Okay, and so when is council, being that this is a pilot, is this, are we then notified when applicants are accepted for this to be able to do this? Is council notified of that, or, and then at the end, do we get some kind of report that says how the pilot went, and how we would move on forward from that?
Dear Worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, so any development application that's looking at participating in the surety bond pilot program would have to go to council and get approval for a development variance permit. So council would be privy to that, and council would have to approve that development variance permit. You're correct, it is a pilot program, so staff would be providing council an update, more than likely in a year's time, to see how the program was implemented, the pros and cons, and then at that time, council would look, staff would look to council for some direction, whether we continue with the pilot program or have more permanent structure in place for the surety bond.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I just wanted to confirm with staff, previously when applicants came forward, the only mechanism they had to put a bond up against their project was a letter of credit, is that correct?
To your worship, to Councillor Pratt, the only two securities under the subdivision development service bylaw is cash or a letter of credit.
And would we historically on I think if I remember correctly, when I look at the development conditions that were typically listed on a development application, do they tell us whether or not the applicant has chosen cash or letter of credit?
Through your worship to Councillor Pratt, my understanding is the specific security item is not mentioned in the report to council itself, or the condition, because it's up, the developer does make the election at a later date, but I would just confirm that with Mr. Richardson.
Through your worship, Councilor Pratt, that's correct. The subdivision development servicing bylaw includes into the servicing agreement the reports that council sees coming forward reference the servicing agreement, the references the subdivision development servicing bylaw, and within that, as Mr. Cooner mentioned, provide for two mechanisms, cash or letter of credit, your worship.
Great, thank you very much. And the process with the other two mechanisms, so outlined in this report for the surety bond program, developers or proponents are expected to provide 125% security. Is that the typical amount of security if they are going with simply a letter of credit or cash, or is this even greater level that they would typically be expected to provide?
So, your worship, Councillor Pratt, the typical, in the event it's a cash or security, would be 100%. Here, what we're proposing is 120%, so it'd be 100% would be surety bond, and 20% would be a letter of credit or cash, and that essentially mitigates any risks with relation to the Township of Langley's interest due to the fact it's a pilot program, and we would mitigate any risk in the event there's issues with the surety bond being called or work's not being completed, as some of these items do progress and take time. The cost of the work does escalate as well, so this is to protect the municipality.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, I apologize. I quickly misread 125 as opposed to 120, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call a question on E5 as amended. That carries unanimously. Item E6, Fraser Highway Employment Lands Reference Plan. It's moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Question, first of all, I was trying to understand exactly what the difference is between a reference plan and then just a plan. And what is the difference between those things in a practical sense?
Dear Worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, so in relation to a reference plan, this would just be an item that would guide development, and applications can look at to provide some assistance. When, in the event this was a neighborhood plan, that would be adopted by bylaw, and that bylaw, then the OCP would be amended, the neighborhood plan would be amended, and there'd be accompanying development permit areas, and the zoning bylaw itself would be amended. So that would be in the event that this was a bylaw adopted as if it were a neighborhood plan.
So does that imply that there would be more flexibility in a reference plan because it's sort of meant to be a guide as opposed to a bylaw or a neighborhood plan that has been approved? Is it sort of a general idea and concept, but there's a lot of flexibility within it? Is that a fairest way to describe it?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmer, yes and no. At the same time, the reference plan would be a guiding document, but in that event, council can still rezonings have council discretion, so council can still decide at that time whether that reference plan should be taken into consideration or not. Very similar to what council had done with 200 Street 2040, where that's a reference plan and a guiding document for applications to take into consideration, but it's not technically a statutory bylaw, and nor is it the neighborhood plan. So technically speaking, the Fraser Highway employment lands, there is a neighborhood plan and a zoning per each property there, so it would be that would be the actual zone and neighborhood plan.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, if that's okay. In the February 27th, 2023 meeting, it did talk about having a framework for community amenity contributions for extraordinary land uses within the plan. As we move forward at some point to an ACC plan instead, amenities contribution plan, is that a statement that it gets changed, or is there still a CAC component that gets tied to this even though we move to an ACC just wondering what,
Your Worship, Councilor Whitmarsh, yes, that was historically the resolution, and I believe that was in 2023, did you mention?
it says 2023. Yeah.
Yes, so a lot has changed since that date, and based on that, we would, staff would be looking at an ACC system for applications going forward, or whether they comply with the interim policy that we have at place, depending on the rezoning itself.
Okay, so that would be put in the new reference plan. It would eventually be adjusted to refer to ACCs as opposed to CACs.
Your Worship, Councilor Whitmarsh, the reference plan itself does not mention CSCs or ACC
Oh,
itself.
okay.
We
All
would
right.
look at that at a rezoning stage.
Okay. One of the things on this particular area, and you know, and I've joined the party a little bit after the beginning of the discussions, but it does feel like this particular area has a number of residents that live in the area that are very that are happy with what is there, where their property sits, where their property is going to be designated. But there also seems to be a significant number of residents that live in the area that are not. And the number is quite large. Some of them have reached out and we've talked. And so it seems to be a differing views depending on where your property is and what you intend to do with your property in the future. So I guess what I'm wondering about is the timing of this, and if there's if we feel like we've been able to get the necessary feedback, input, particularly from those people that live within the employment lands boundaries that we have now, and maybe we would be. I guess I'm just looking for some comment from staff as to if that necessary feedback from the public has been gained, particularly from all the residents that live there, as it seems like we have people on both sides of the issue as it regards to this space.
Your Worship, Councilor Whitmarsh, says in relation to community engagement, staff did conduct several open houses through summer 2025 all the way through fall 2025 as well. 2024, sorry, summer 2024 to fall 2025. So the engagement did take place with residents, landowners, local community, and even environmental advocacy groups, and including even the township's own agriculture advisory committee. So there were several open houses to learn about the plan, provide feedback. Those summaries have been provided to council. There's been numerous memos outlining the themes, the key themes, and some of the key themes was in relation to value of adding industrial land supply, also to consider the residential impacts, the environmental considerations, including stormwater runoff, and to also take into consideration servicing and infrastructure. However, in the event council feels that more community engagement is required, that can always take place if council were to go that direction.
So if we were to if this was to be deferred for further discussion, what would the impact be to these lands being developed? If it was deferred to another meeting or to another time frame, is that going to have a significant impact on decisions made, or would that be all right from a staff's perspective?
Your Worship, to Councilor Whitmarsh, there'd be several perspectives to take into consideration on that item, whether it's from a staffing resource standpoint or you're looking at from a development application standpoint. So it may have impact on potential development applications that are waiting for the Fraser Highway Employment Reference Plan to either be endorsed by council to then position themselves or make the application based on that accordingly. From a staffing perspective, if council were to defer it, and I just want a clarification, just deferral of the report or referral back to staff for further community engagement as well. So I just wanted a clarification on that as point.
Yeah, I guess the question I'm asking is about deferral for some further community engagement, particularly with the residents that live within the boundaries of this area, to further enhance, see what we can do to make that less impacting for those that are unhappy with the way it's designed, but also in terms of applications and development applications and timing. I mean, if we deferred this, for example, until the January 26th meeting, which is about 5 weeks away, It feels like to me it might not have a huge impact, but I guess I'm just interested in knowing if this would have an impact on applications or an impact on other things if we were to defer it to the next meeting. Just, you may not be able to answer that directly, but I'm just interested to have your feedback.
Your worship, to Councilor Whitmarsh, no, I understand the question a bit better. But yes, from a staffing perspective, if council were to defer that to January 26th, that would be of no concern from staff's perspective, but the impact on potential development applications or any concerns with landowners, at this time, I don't believe staff can comment on that in depth to see if there's any implications of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. You know, I think I've seen everybody at this table, including when we weren't colleagues, at the open house at least once or twice. And so this process that has been underway, I can't recall, maybe Brookswood, I've seen more revisions to the land use map on this employment lands reference plan than I've seen on many other planning documents as long as I've been paying attention. I also think that in terms of the engagement process that's been underway, I certainly have heard from both sides on this one, exactly where they would like to see changes made and where they're unhappy or where they are happy. The recollection that I have is that the formal process for this employment land study began in 23, but if I can confirm with staff, I think even years prior, there's been discussion around coming up with a coherent plan for the Fraser Highway area, since there was obviously a lot of grandfathered uses that would be more of an industrial nature. There's residential, there's light commercial, there's manufactured homes. So there's a whole variety of uses that I think staff and the community who have lived there for quite some time have wanted to see be brought together in a coherent fashion. Obviously, there's not going to be everybody who's happy. And I think the reality is that how many temporary use permit applications we've seen in the area has been a big reason why, for myself, I've been pleased to see the process undertaken this way. I think the important thing for me in this is that the clause in the report where it talks about what the reference plan does not include, it doesn't include engineering services. It doesn't include the outline of further updates to township plans and regulatory bylaws for the implementation of plans. So when I read that, am I correct in my understanding that the rural plan is not formally updated by adopting the reference plan?
To your worship, Councilor Pratt, that is correct. The reference plan does lack a lot of items that a typical neighborhood plan would have. That's why hence we're referring to it as a reference plan.
And without engineering plans, without stormwater, without sanitary plans, what sort of development would be permitted under those circumstances? Because obviously, for example, in Willoughby, we have huge areas of Willoughby that are untouched simply because there are no stormwater detention ponds, there are no pipes. So in this area, should this plan be approved, what type of development applications would a proponent be able to not just bring forward to council, but actually receive fourth reading and the issuance of a building permit? Obviously, that's a big loaded question, but are we expecting to see tilt-up industrial? Are we expecting to see, heavy commercial? Are those things allowed without those other components actually approved?
To your worship, to Councilor Pratt, it is a bit of a complicated question, but so the overall intent of the reference plan is to see low impact industrial there. In the event the reference plan is not adopted, then applicants would have to provide a rationale for what land use item they're proposing, and some of those rationale may stem from some of the temporary use permits that have been endorsed by council as providing some basis for it. But in the event the reference plan is adopted, then there would be some rationale to supporting some of the landowners' land use item for low impact industrial.
Thank you. Actually, I do want to go back to a question that I didn't specifically ask, but I would appreciate a little bit more context on, is if staff can comment sort of even approximately how many years prior to 2023 discussions around some kind of reference plan for the corridor have been in discussion.
Through your worship, Councilor Pratt, I'll refer to Mr. Chews, who's been here for several years, and he can provide some history on that.
How many years is several?
Through your worship to Councillor Pratt, I believe we have done some pre-planning in the area as a development prerequisite for a rezoning application. That study was done by, again, a development applicant, and I believe some engagement activities took place during COVID on the empty lot of that particular development. So that should be dialing back some 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to thank staff for all the work they've done on this and the many opportunities for public input that have been very well attended. I think if I'm understanding some of the concerns of the people living in the area are that this is because there's been revisions and things have changed. You know, property's been taken out, added in, and I know that's in response to the feedback from the people there. I tend to like the suggestion earlier about perhaps deferring it a little bit longer. What I'm wondering is if there has been any survey of the affected property owners. And maybe affected is a strong word, because they might be very happy. So, but just wondering if those specific property, like if there's a chart of tracking who has been spoken to and where they're at, that we would have, because I have heard people on both sides of this who are very supportive of it and people who are very concerned about it.
To your worship, to Councillor Martin, as I highlighted earlier, that have done several community engagement open houses and feedback forms, and staff do receive emails specifically from landowners. So staff do have some of the information, but in relation to a specific survey for landowners that have been added or removed, that's I don't believe we have that, but we have overall correspondence from some of the landowners and open house feedback forms and some of the other online engagement as well that took place.
Okay. And would surveying the owners of the properties be an onerous task for staff? I'm just curious because I don't want to suggest to understand what goes on behind the scenes.
To your worship, Councillor Martins, it would depend on whether we're surveying the entire owners that would within the reference plan, or specifically certain owners. If it's 2 or 3 property owners, we don't believe that it would be that onerous on staff, but it would just depend on the number of property owners would be surveying.
Okay, thank you. And then I just want to, for my own clarity on this, being that it's now a reference plan, so we're not changing OCP, etc. If proponents come forward with applications that comply with the reference plan, would those come before council for vote?
Through your worship, to Councillor Martins, yes, you are correct. They would come to council, as if it's only a reference plan that would trigger a plan amendment, and those rezonings would be all before council.
Okay, and I guess my final question is, Councillor Pratt touched on some of the requirements before any of this even happens. Time frame wise, for this to actually move ahead and take on legs, because I believe we have to go through Metro yet. There's some steps in place. Any idea on timelines?
Your worship, to Councillor Martins, council has given us direction that the reference plan be endorsed, and that any development application that would be proceeding would on their own application be going to Metro. So in the event this isn't, this Fraser Highway employment land reference plan is endorsed, staff themselves would not be forwarding this to Metro Vancouver for any RGS amendment. That would be dealt with on an individual development application by application basis. So that the timeline then, to go back to your question, would be dependent on how many development applications proceed and the pace they proceed at, and when they come to council for a plan amendment, and then are referred to Metro for a regional growth strategy, RGS amendment as well. So that would depend on the development applications.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Bauer, I had an amendment, just to the first part there, the recommendation to adjust the boundaries slightly and then clarify the funding source. Yeah, that one there. So the bold parts are the amendment, the addition of applicable lands fronting 240th north of Fraser Highway and lands fronting 232 north of Manufactured Home Park be designated industrial. And then just clarified the funding source is the Climate Action Reserve Fund. There is no Climate Action Strategy Reserve Fund per se, but that's in the language of the policy, but this is the technical name. So I'll move that. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any questions or discussion on this amendment? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can, I'd like to, I'd like to make a motion for deferral. Is this something that can be done now and then defer it, the whole thing to January 26th?
Ms. Bauer,
Or is this,
with an amendment on the floor, I believe we changed that. The amendment has to be disposed of. Is that correct? Can you defer it with an amendment on the floor? I think you could probably defer it, right?
We have done it in the past.
Yeah, we have, yeah. So if you wish to move deferral, Councillor Whitmarsh, you can go ahead.
yeah, I'd like to move deferral till the next council meeting.
Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Martins. Do you wish to speak further to the deferral?
No, I just think it'd be helpful to have time to reflect and think and to speak to those that live in the area.
All right, so that will call the question on the deferral. And the deferral is defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rent, Mayor Woodward opposed. Now back to the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Yep, seeing none, call the question on the amendment. Amendment carries with Councillor Whitmarsh opposed. And we're back to Fraser Highway Employment Land Reference Plan as amended. I want to thank the staff. I recognize the comments here are very reasonable. The reference plan status is much, much lower. And this can be reconsidered and amended at any time by resolution of council. The petition in the neighborhood can occur, and this can be reconsidered by council at any time. There's no bylaw process, there's no public hearings, the bar for it is very low. It's very similar to 200 Street 2040, which was not even endorsed by council. Had a number of issues in it. It was a reference plan. It has some ideas in it that people like. It has some other ideas that people don't like. It's a document on the shelf. It's a significant improvement over where we were, in my opinion, because development's occurring there anyway. And it's occurring without the framework. We've seen that already. It's occurring without the framework that's in the investments plan, which has significant environmental protection requirements, significant preservation of environmental areas outlined in the plan. There's a number of safeguards that only a very limited number of low-emitting uses will even be considered, versus what we've seen, which is any application can come forward at any time for any parcel of land that's not in the LR. And you're always at risk of another council doing kind of what it's been doing, which is piecemealing the approach without any sort of reference plan or document that's outlined anything at all. And so I think the process largely with this document ends here until I think the next council may or may not even look at it. I think this will guide any applications that come forward versus where we were before. And I think it's an improvement over where we were, given that these applications were happening on Fraser Highway regardless. And any council of any time can change land use for non-ALR lands with no plan whatsoever. And so I think it ends here largely in regards to the direction that this is going to go. Engineering's not done, environmental studies are not done, aquifer assessments are not done, and none of those have been authorized by council to be done. And so I think I support where we are. This, I have some sympathy for members of council that have been here for a couple of meetings, but this has been going on now for 2 years, 2.5 years. And I think it is time to put a document on the shelf that can be revisited, amended, adjusted, appealed, reconsidered and defeated at any time. And it'll inform applications which are going through the process regardless. So with that, I see any other discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, call the question on the resolution. That carries unanimously. Move on to E7, Development Variance Permit Application 100196. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on E7? Seeing none, call the question on E7. That carries unanimously. Bylaws for second reading, amenity cost charges bylaw. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion or questions on G1? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. A few questions on it. Some of it's for me to understand, and then maybe some comment in it. But in Table 1, when I look at the document Table 1, it has proposed revisions to amenities and capital costs, and outlines in there the capital cost of a number of different amenities, and then has what is considered debt, part of those amenities, and then grants and so on to a revised capital cost. So a couple of questions with the table. The $144 million of debt that is indicated in Table 1 that is now being removed or taken out of this ACC plan or bylaw. What was is the plan that this 144 million would have been paid by CACs or possibly by the new ACC bylaw, but provincially we are unable to do that? Is that a good understanding?
Dear Worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, since the ACC bylaw was brought forward, there was some best practice guidelines, and part of the best practice guidelines and some of the regulations around ACCs, there was an item that was clarified that ACC bylaw for projects under construction prior to adoption would not qualify. So therefore, we had removed the debt associated with projects that were under construction, and that's where the removal of the 144 million is indicated in Table 1. Furthermore, it's noted that there still is an in-stream policy regarding community amenity contributions. So that in-stream applications are not subject to ACC bylaws. Those would be account for the debt as well. They would fall under that item.
Okay, so the original expectation was we could cover those things through CACs, but now with the new, we won't be able to do that. Is that?
No, let's get that clarified. No, it's a nice twist on it, but Mr. Cooner, go ahead. Maybe you can clarify that.
It's not trying to twist it.
Dear Worship, Councillor Whitmarsh, when staff were working on the ACC bylaw and the legislation, there were some best practice guidelines and regulation that was released when we reviewed the items and consulted with our external consultants, Urban Systems, who assist several municipalities with drafting their ACC bylaw. During that process, it was indicated that any projects prior to construction or that have commenced construction would not be included in the project list. So therefore, those project debt was removed from the table itself. Historically, some of these projects were already a part of a CAC program and now would essentially be funded through the in-stream applications that are not subject to the ACC bylaw. As staff do anticipate additional $165 million in potential revenues through the interim interim application, a community amenity contribution.
Okay, thank you. Also, in table one, it mentions something called the Willowbrook Community Center. I am not aware of any discussions around that, so maybe just to update me what's happened with where the discussion's at around Willowbrook Community Center, and just wondering where the estimated cost of $250 million came from.
Through your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, so essentially we had removed some of the debt, and to ensure that we maintain some of the projected per unit cost, we had added an additional amenity that would be qualified for the program, and that would be the Willowbrook Community Center as a new amenity. This is a preliminary item. Staff do provide rough estimates in relation to the estimated capital cost with cost escalation, construction cost escalation taken into consideration. We still are in works of even completing a Willowbrook Community Neighborhood Plan, and would look at this item in more detail once we have completed a Willowbrook Neighborhood Plan, and or unless council gives us direction to proceed with the Willowbrook Community Center. I'll refer to Mr. Winsley in relation to potential cost estimate and any further history on that as well.
Mr. Cooner covered it well, in terms of we try to provide envelopes based on our best projections of what that could cost. The majority of new community centers being built in other communities are $200 to $230 million now, so 250 was the number we used.
Okay, thank you. Also related to table one, in the table it indicates a capital cost, and then it has sort of debt, and at the end on the far right it indicates revised capital cost, which is remove the debt and any grants. So the money that, or the amounts that are listed in that far right column for each of those items, they total here around 260-70 million. Where does that, where is the source for those projects? If it's not through grant and it's not through debt, what is the source for those projects that are listed in table one in the revised capital cost?
Through your worship to Councilor Whitmer, just for clarification purposes, you're talking about the 224.5 million?
That's right, and then just below it for the Willowbrook Community Center, it says 57 million.
So the cost there would be, the source of the funding source would be the amenity cost charges.
Just for the Willowbrook Community Center, is that right? What, like the other ones on the top, the 224 million, where does that, what's the source for that? 224.
The 224 plus the additional funds for the Willowbrook Community Center, that would be, these are all the amenities within the ACC bylaw itself.
Okay, so the 224 is covered by the ACC, but the 144 debt portion is not. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was removed.
I see. Okay. I'm good for now. I'll have questions after, but thank you.
Yeah, so I appreciate the dialogue. I think it's challenging because, we see people on the internet speaking with authority as if, and they're just getting it wrong. And they speak with such authority and such conviction, but get it wrong again and again. And we can't chase every incorrect blog article or incorrect comment. The interesting thing about the ACC transition is the 144, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cooner, is the already constructed portion of the projects. The challenge being that there's multiple large capital projects that were initiated before the province brought in Bill 46.
That is correct.
Yeah, so I just want to confirm it. So, people will key on the word debt, but it's actually the portion of the project that's already been funded and partially constructed that cannot be put into the program given how the province structured ACCs.
That is correct, based on the current practice guidelines and advice from the external consultants. Items under construction do not qualify to be included in the ACC amenities.
Yeah, so there's the crux of the issue. And then you have another challenge that in their wisdom, their great wisdom there at the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs, they also suggested that there's permanent in-stream protection for ACCs. Perhaps you could touch on that.
Your worship, permanent in-stream protection, I did just,
Maybe we, so can, if an application has already applied for development, are they subject to ACCs at any point?
in the event the bylaw hasn't been adopted yet, but if right now they would have in-stream protection and not be subject to the ACC bylaw.
So I think there's maybe some work to do on our part to do a better job of explaining this, because I see a lot of confusion. And then honestly, some people that want it to be a problem, whether it is or isn't. And so I can assure people it's really not. And, that'll have to, I think, be made clearer over the months ahead. And maybe I'll look at ways to try to do that. I mean, we can't chase every incorrect statement that's made on the internet. But again, I just want to caution the media, caution our residents, and caution people that we have people on the internet are speaking with authority as if they understand it, and they get it wrong again and again. Councillor Martins.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that's why I come here to ask my questions, so I'm getting the information from the correct source. And Mr. Mayor, I think you mentioned it, and Mr. Cooner, but I'm still sufficiently vague on this. Some of the projects mentioned in Table 1 are already underway, and my understanding was that we couldn't collect ACCs for projects that were already underway, only for projected, like new projects coming up. If you could just provide just further clarification on that, that would help me.
Through your worship to Councillor Martin, yes, that is correct. So if one of the projects is under construction, there's several phases to some of these projects, then you cannot include that in your amenity cost charges. For example, there's certain phases of Smith Athletic Park and LEC's ice and dry arenas facility that are under construction. We're in the table LEC Concert and Performance Hall, there is no elements of that under construction at all. There's certain elements under the LEC or Smith Athletic Park that are not under construction as well, certain phases.
Okay, so the numbers that I'm seeing here are for phases not yet under construction.
The debt being removed is for the items that are under construction and the debt has been approved for.
Yeah, right, sorry, in the D, column D, though that's for phases not yet under construction.
That is correct. Those are the items that qualify under the amenity cost charges bylaw and will be included in the amenity list. You are correct.
Thank you. The other question I have about the Willowbrook Community Center, that is great to see here. We definitely need one. And I know I heard already Mr. Winslade speaking to it being more of an envelope, just a general number that we're looking at, and I appreciate that while staff work through that. What I'm confused by, is not confused, but are we required to get projects underway within a certain time frame if we're collecting ACCs for those specific projects?
Through your worship to Councillor Martins, there's certain growth periods, and then obviously it takes time to ensure that the ACC bylaw amenity reserve, when the reserve is established, to have the funds even available. So with respect to timelines, I think the anticipated timelines for some of these projects are almost in the 25 to 30 year timelines.
Okay, thank you.
It's important to note, I believe as well, that the Willowbrook Community Plan has been endorsed by Council to be updated. It's also required by an agreement with TransLink. And within that, there is, I believe, Mr. Cooner, a built-in assumption that will require a Willowbrook Community Center along within that community plan with the densities that are imposed by the province, in fact. And with that assumption, I think it's important to note that that assumption is being built into the ACC program before that process takes place and is ultimately confirmed. Mr. Cooner, if that community planning process revealed that not to be necessary, that would potentially be taken out of the ACC program. Another project potentially required for Willowbrook could be put back in.
Your worship, Potentially, and there's an item I'd like to mention from staff's perspective is the amenity cost charges bylaw itself is also a bylaw which council or staff would more than likely review on an annual basis to see any projects that need to be removed or added in the, it's a living document here that will, I believe, be changed as well over the years. So it's the amenity list right now is not quote unquote set in stone.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Kuna, unlike a DCC program, again, I think it's just good to go back and cover some basics, because I think there's a high level of interest in this, and I have it as well, that the ACC program does not go to the inspector for approval in the same manner that the DCC program does. So it has more flexibility at the local level.
There is differences in the approval process, where DCC approval process is a bit more stringent, we could characterize it.
Yeah, and so I think that there were a couple of people that emailed us over the weekend, which I deeply appreciated as well, that I had to clarify that the report is mentioning that transitionary period, transitionary amounts, and some of the amounts in the ACC program versus the interim CAC policy voluntary program, and how that's going to work. I understand that there's probably, again, some more information we need to get out there to, I think, correct the narratives that some people are looking for it to be a problem. And if you want it to be a problem, then you'll find a way for it to be a problem. Councillor Whitmarsh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple further questions. There are applicants that we have recently that are under the interim policy regarding community amenation contributions, the interim policy that we have. And I heard it say that they would not be subject to the ACC bylaw once it's enacted. Is it possible for those applicants to change to the ACC bylaw, or they are in where they're in and they would stay with the CAC, the interim CAC policy? What is there options, or that's where they're at, and we are expecting about $165 million to come through that avenue. Is that correct?
Your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, so the applications, once the ACC bylaw is adopted, that are in-streamed and not subject to the bylaw itself, there potentially is an opportunity for proponents to mimic some of the per unit pricing, per unit rates in relation to the interim community amenity policy. But we haven't had any proponents yet, or we haven't actually had the bylaw adopted yet, or see if there's a mechanism for proponents to opt in, but my understanding at this time is no.
Okay. So when the ACC bylaw, is that become effective immediately after fourth reading, or is there a lead-in period to which that takes place?
Through your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, once the bylaw is adopted, so council gives it 4 readings, then it would be in place.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on second reading. That carries unanimously. Bylaws for first, second, and third reading. Rezoning application number 100779, bylaw 6183. I'll move it. Seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on H1? Seeing none, call the question on H1. That carries unanimously. H2, rezoning application number 100718, bylaw number 6171. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on H2? Seeing none, call a question on H2.
No, second, mic problem. Mic problem,
Mic problem?
voting problem.
So you're voting in favor?
In favor, yeah.
That was carried unanimously, Ms. Bauer. Okay, great. So that's H2. H3. So just make sure I lost my place. So H3, rezoning application number 100782, bylaw number 6172. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on H3? Seeing none, call the question on H3. That carries unanimously. H4, rezoning application number 100637, bylaw number 5782. Does anybody wish to move that? I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any discussion on H4? No, seeing none, I'm going to move deferral to April 13th, seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any discussion on, questions on deferral? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, just interested in knowing why the deferral till April 13th.
Just think there's a number of important items, I think, to review in more detail.
Okay, you're not able to share any of those with us?
I think I'm going to keep it to myself. I've got a couple items I'd like to review with staff specifically and a few members of the community.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Councillor Martins?
Yeah, and sorry, only that I didn't hear the date that you were moving to defer.
Yeah, April 13th.
13th?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So with that, I'll call the question on deferral. That carries unanimously. Okay, on to H6, 2026 Revenue Anticipation Borrowing Bylaw, bylaw number 6188. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on H6? Seeing none, call the question on H6. That carries unanimously. H7, Building Bylaw Amendment, bylaw number 6169. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Wren. Is there any questions or discussion on H7? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions, just to understand the report. It mentions in the report that, sorry, get my question up here. Projects submitted prior to April 1st, 2025 were on step 3 EL1. Projects submitted after December 31st are requirements of the day. I'm kind of wondering what happened to projects between April 1st, 2025 and current, or until December, that time period, because it talks about this option only applies to those projects submitted before April 1st, and then it talks about projects submitted by December 26th, that they'd have to be on this other one. So I'm wondering what happens with the in-between ones.
Dear Worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, so the rezoning applications that are proposing any residential density greater than 15 units per acre that were submitted prior to April 1st, 2025. So that's rezoning applications.
Yep.
Then there is a permit application, so building permit application submitted after December 31st, 2026 shall comply with the energy code, step code and zero carbon step code requirement in the effective time of the building permit issuance, or that's after December 31st. So in the event a rezoning application has proceeded, but the building permit application is submitted after December 31st, 2026, or it's not a fulsome development building permit application, then they would be have to comply with the energy step code and zero carbon step code requirement in effect at the time of the building permit issuance.
Right, okay, that's helpful, thank you. Do we have a type or some expectation of what kind of savings there actually is for us to meet step 3 rather than the step 4? Like, is there I don't know how we quantify that, but it's hard to understand. I know it depends on the size of the home and type of home, but is there a percentage? Is it, what are the, I hear people talk about, oh, it's, you know, definitely more money to go to step 4, and if we stay at step 3, it'll be less expensive for builders, but I don't really know what that means.
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, I believe in the previous report to council, staff noted some industry claims in relation to cost saving per unit. I believe a couple hundred it was quoted in the previous report. I don't have that report before me, but the item is also dependent on the development community itself. So staff can guess some rough figures, but it's up to them, their construction cost and how they design the building itself to see if there's any savings associated with building to a lower step code. But we would put that burden on the developers rather than staff kind of guesstimating on what potential savings there are.
Okay, and what why was the decision made at the time by council to go to the step 4, which was a more stricter standard than what you have at the provincial standard, and then, you know, now coming back and maybe looking at a standard that now reflects what the province is doing? I don't understand the adjustment. Maybe you can't answer that. Maybe that can be answered by a councillor, maybe Mayor Woodward, I don't know.
Yeah, used to be a counselor, totally understand. It's an interesting explanation because I believe there's a combination of economics, education around electrification challenges that they're being faced, but also a differentiation between single family and townhouse forms. So there's no contemplation of adjustments for single family homes, and this is really looking at that multifamily townhouse development, where I think it has been raised legitimately in comparison to other municipalities. When maybe council made the decision, hadn't accounted for that consideration, the way it's been raised. And again, looking at some ways where there is no in-stream protection for building permit applications in the same way that there is for rezonings and land use changes, so, and DCCs and even ACCs and other things. So I think that it's been a struggle trying to accommodate the desire to be proactive, address many of the things that have been raised. But I think it's unfortunate to have it being characterized as some kind of rollback, because I think it's more complicated than that, given the differentiation between single family and townhomes. The number of units that will be built is theoretical, and a number of people have expressed that they invested in drawings at a certain type, you know, ahead of assuming approval, because mostly townhouse developments are not controversial for the most part. So they've invested in drawings, they've invested in these things, and then it was changed on them without a grace period. So these are the kinds of things that were raised, I believe, after the fact, and it's been revisited formally with the staff, with all the information, hearing from the public, and I think now it is decision time.
Thank you.
Councillor Martins?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry if this was in the report and I missed it, but a question through the chair to staff. Did we receive any feedback on this report, on this agenda item from advocacy groups like Haven or UDI?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, not to my knowledge, but I just get Mr. Cesar ready to confirm that.
Yeah, your worship, to Councillor Martins, no, we never received anything formal from those organizations. We did receive a number of letters to distribution and things like that, which you were made aware of.
Okay, thank you. And then just a question for me, because I'm not in the business of building homes. Being that the BC Building Code does have the requirement for the overheating protection currently, and these 50 projects will still have to comply with that. Practically, how does that look in these multifamily developments? How do they achieve that? And I'm assuming without increasing the cost too high.
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, it's a bit of a complicated question, as it's up to the builder themselves to work with their consultants, whether it's their designers, architects, and ensure that they meet the overheating requirements. Theoretically, I think in some events, when they do meet some of these overheating requirements, they naturally will go to a higher step code, but that item, it rests with the builder itself on how to ensure that their design meets some of these other requirements. But that's staff's general position on the item.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. But that the overheating requirements won't be up to the owners who purchase the units. It's a requirement of the builder, correct?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, that's a BC Building Code item.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I do have an amendment, if everybody wants to pull it up, that April 1st, 2025, not that one, Ms. Bauer. I don't think I sent you this one. Yeah, so you can pull that down, please. Yeah. Thank you. That April 1st, 2025, within 7.5A3 be changed to January 31st, 2026. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Ferguson. So this would extend in-stream protection to January 1st, 2026 for townhouses and multifamily forms that are part 9 construction. Is there any questions or discussion about that? No, seeing none, call a question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. So is there any other discussion on H7 as amended? Nope, seeing none, I'll call the question on H7 as amended. That carries unanimously. Move on to H8, voluntary water metering bylaw updates, bylaw number 6180, 6181, 6182. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on H8? Seeing none, call the question on H8. That carries unanimously. H9, 2025 development. I'm trying to think, no, we did not. No, we did not. 2025 development cost charges bylaw 6189. I'll move that. Is there a seconder? That's seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any questions or discussion on H9? Seeing none, I'd like to move deferral of H9 to January 26th, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on deferral? Seeing none, call the question on deferral to January 26th. That carries unanimously. Let's see, what do we got now? Councillor Bailey, would you like a recess in 2 hours? Pardon me? Would you like a recess in 2 hours? You can do a few more. Maybe do that, appreciate it. So I think we are at the 2 hour mark, which council procedure bylaw calls for that. So we'll then advance some of these items when we come back in about 5 minutes and carry on with item I9. Thank you. right, so we'll get back underway under item I1, Township of Langley Regional Context Statement Update. Let's see here. This was deferred, Ms. Bauer, so it's automatically back on the floor. So I'm going to move a referral. Ms. Bauer, if you could bring that up, please. Council refer the proposed regional context statement bylaw back to staff to consider potential revisions for addition of 2 special study areas and a removal of 2 special study areas, and the suggested amendments in the agenda, and anything else that's appropriate for council to consider. That's seconded by Councilor Rent. So this is to make some adjustments. So just to clarify, this will come back again, Mr. Cooner, for an amended 3rd reading, or will it start the process again? I just want to highlight for council that this will come back in a form of an updated bylaw.
That is correct, Your Worship. These items would be incorporated into the bylaw and brought forward for council's endorsement or consideration for 3rd reading.
Yeah, that's great. So everybody in council will have a chance to see this in bylaw form. Councilor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. In regards to the 2 areas that are being removed, if possible through you to staff, approximately when were those areas added to our regional context statement for contemplation to be added to the urban containment boundary and theoretically then developable? Do we know?
Your Worship, Councilor Pratt, I'll defer to Mr. Chu and state what I stated earlier. Since he's been here several years, I believe this is dating back quite some time.
Through your worship to Councilor Pratt, I believe those 2 special study areas were added shortly after Metro 2040 was approved by the Metro Vancouver Board. These were added as part of our regional contact statement work. So I'm guessing it's around 2015 to 2016 range.
2015 to 2016. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And yeah, I recall, at least with Carvolth, there's been lots of discussion around, especially with the potential for BRT, seeing a little bit more creativity in the land use there. Then obviously Fraser Highway, we've had lots of discussions about. I don't remember there being much public consultation now, albeit I probably wasn't doing much attending of open houses at the time, if I'm thinking of that timeline, based on what I was doing at the time, which was being in high school. But was there much fulsome public consultation on the addition of those 2 special study areas to the regional context statement?
Through your worship to Councilor Pratt, I believe those 2 special study areas were added based on direction from council with minimal consultation.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Martins?
Yeah, could I ask staff to direct me to map 12 that's referenced in this motion?
Yeah, so Mr. Cooner, map 12 referenced here is map 12 within Metro 2050. Mr. Cooner or Mr. Chu could confirm that.
Yes, map 12 refers to map 12 of the regional growth strategy.
Is that in the agenda package?
Dear Worship, Councilor Martin, that's not in the agenda package, I believe. Map 12.
Okay, so, just wondering how we know what the special study area would be.
So map 12 is a map of the region from Bowen Island to Maple Ridge in the township. And it shows all the special study areas for the entire region. And so this would reference putting in the original context statement to update that map. So the map would just be the map of the entire region. And this is the language necessary to direct staff to come back with the amended regional context statement. But the map itself is just a map of the region.
Okay, so is it possible when this comes back from staff, then that at least the Langley section of the map be included as an attachment in that report.
Through your worship, Councilor Martins, I don't see that as an issue, and we would endeavor to include that as one of the schedules or attachments.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, thank you. Just question through to staff about the sort of purpose of a special study area. What does it do? Just to remind, what status does it carry? And if we're going to remove or add, just interested in knowing what it means to be a special or a special study area.
Through your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, I believe the special study area is an overlay in the regional growth strategy, an area that signifies additional studies will be required with the intention of amending the regional growth strategy and the regional context statement.
Okay, so like if we're talking about 3 and 4, removing them, does that mean that we have done these special studies and we would have information about them? Is that how I'm understanding it?
For bullet number 4, we have not done any further studies on that area, simply because there would, no, sorry, this is 3 and 4, pardon me. We have not done further studies to look at the feasibility of including those areas in the regional growth strategy, simply because I believe when we were directed to add those areas, there were some development interests, and those interests have actually, development interests have actually gone away. No further inquiries after a short period of time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I appreciate Mr. Chu's last comment there regarding development interests. And then with the timeline of when these special study areas were added to the regional growth strategy, from my recollection on the Metro Vancouver special study area maps, I don't think any of the lands within those 2 special study areas would be considered urban or non-ALR. I believe every single piece of those properties is ALR. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So there were development interests on the ALR at the time?
Yes, there were some active development inquiries, and I believe there was one application for the area under bullet 4.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on the referral. That carries unanimously. Direct council's attention to page 15, reconsideration. Motion to reconsider. I'll move reconsideration, seconded by Councillor Grint. I'll call the question on reconsideration of the major transit growth corridor. That carries unanimously. Ms. Bauer, is it back on the floor? We have to move it again, so I can just go straight to the amended version.
Yes, we would have to
just
move
go
it.
straight to that. If you could bring that up, please. This will be rather than defeating and removing, we can just go move straight to this.
So as I understand it, we are not going to there will be no mover or seconder for the original motion, and we are going directly to the amended version?
Unless you see a flaw in that process?
Really, we have to at least put it on the floor, and then you can make the referral. So we have to move the original motion or deal with it by not having a mover or
So I
seconder?
think we'd probably want to defeat it because it's not really a referral, it'd be more of a new motion or an amendment that would replace the entire intent, so we can certainly do that.
It would be more
Council
appropriate
wishes
to
to
dispose of
entertain-
it, so either not receive a mover or seconder if nobody moves it,
Well, I can
or,
certainly, sorry, so I
Yeah.
think we're, sorry about that, just to talk, I think we can move this, second this, and then if council is interested in another version, it could defeat this, and then we can bring up the other version. So for the sake of that, could you please bring up the other version?
sorry.
There we are there. So there's the original motion. I did label it a referral. because it does contain a referral word, but it also has a non-endorsement, so it's just contradictory. So why don't, if council would like to entertain this referral motion, which has a non-endorsement in it, we would defeat this. So I'll move that council endorse as in the original motion. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rent. I'm going to call the question on that. This has already been approved by council. I would ask council to defeat this so we can entertain this motion. Let's call the question on the original. That carries unanimously. So Ms. Bauer, if you could bring that back up. Then I will move the two motions that are labeled referral that council does not endorse the proposed boundaries of the major transit growth corridor for submission to Metro Vancouver, and that council refer the proposed boundaries of the major transit growth corridor and applicable densities back to staff to be restricted between 198th Street and 202A Beats with some flexibility there, with largely restricted, subject to additions for 86th Avenue and the Carvel Transit Exchange, with adjustments as it may be appropriate for council to consider reflected in a revised draft regional context statement and applicable ongoing and future Township of Langley community neighborhood planning. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any questions or discussion? Councillor Martins.
Sorry, maybe it's a point of order because I don't have the map with these adjustments in it. Is it all south of Highway 1?
We can clarify. I believe the map of the boundaries was included within the I-1 report. Mr. Cooner or Mr. Chi can confirm that. We could certainly bring that up, or you could certainly ask questions about it.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to cause work for staff. If it's figure 1, I'm looking at it.
Staff can confirm.
Yeah,
It's fine.
okay.
Go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Martins, I am still trying to identify the map, but I can say that the major transit growth corridor designation in the regional growth strategy is from Highway 1 south to the regional center in Willowbrook.
Thank you. That helps. Because I do notice in figure 1, some of the streets mentioned in this motion aren't even in. It must be very outdated, like the 202 underpass and et cetera. It's not even showing in the image I'm looking at. So, yeah, okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Again, this would be referred, so it will come back as part of the regional context statement and other reports. This is not, you'll come back to you and it could be adjudicated at that time as well. I think the key part is the first part, that council endorsing, I think 2040, not endorsing 2040, and then this expectation that it expands from 196 all the way to 205. There's been some suggestions that means a free-for-all for density, based upon, pointing to rapid transit 5 years from now, if that. And I think it's good to clarify that, get council to clarify that I think we're looking for more restricted boundaries to see that updated going forward. At least that's what this motion is looking to achieve, and then showing greater flexibility beyond that. With that, I'll call the question on that motion and referral. That carries unanimously. Okay, bylaws for final adoption, rezoning application number 100532, bylaws 5678. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Rint. Any questions on J1? Questions or concerns? Seeing none, call the question on J1. Carries unanimously. Move approval of development permit 10103. Moved by Mayor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Call the question on the development permit. That carries unanimously. Ms. Barr, can you bring down the previous motion still on the screen? Okay, thank you. J2, official community plan and rezoning application number 100289, bylaw number 60626063. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion or questions on J2? Seeing none, call the question on J2. That carries unanimously. J3, rezoning application number 100671, bylaw number 5827. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any questions on J3? Seeing none, call the question on J3. That carries unanimously. I'll move approval of development permit number 101258, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on the first development permit? Seeing none, call the question on that development permit. Carries unanimously. I'll move approval of development permit 101259, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, call the question on approval of that second development permit. That carries unanimously. J4, rezoning application number 100709, bylaw number 5923, moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any questions on J4? Seeing none, call the question on J4. That carries unanimously. I'll move approval development permit 101344, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Any questions on the development permit? Councillor Pratt.
Sorry, it was a question I meant to ask previously, but I don't think it's too consequential. In the explanation paragraph of the bylaw, it lists 185 apartment units, but when you make the CAC calculation and when you look on the development activity website, I believe it's 212 units. Can we just confirm it's 212?
That's, through your worship, to Councillor Pratt, correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Call the question on development permit 101344. That carries unanimously. Items from prior meetings, K1. Yes. Let me see here. Yes. So I'm going to move reconsideration, seconded by Councillor Rent. Going to call the question on reconsideration. That carries unanimously. I'll move the original motion, seconded by Councillor Rent. Just point Council's attention to item number 1, which referred to the west side of 200 Street. That was an error. That was meant to say the east side of 200 Street. So I'll make an amendment to indicate the east side of 200 Street, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, call the question on that amendment. That carries unanimously. Now back to K1 as amended. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the question on K1 as amended. That carries unanimously. Mayor and Council report. Anybody wish to make a report? Councillor Martins.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge thank you. Karen Long, who won the H.D. Stafford Citizen of the Year Award on December 9th at the Chamber Dinner. Karen is a longtime volunteer in Langley, and many of you know her. And it's an award that's given out annually and since 1980 to honor a person who exemplifies service, leadership, and community spirit. In the time that I've known Karen, yeah, she's known to work very hard with the Aldergrove Fair, BC Farm Museum, Langley Seniors in Action, Langley Volunteer Bureau, Langley Meals on Wheels. She's a Aldergrove Rotarian and other roles as well. In 1 week alone recently, I ran into her at 4 different events that she was volunteering at. And her tireless work in our community is seen by a lot of people, and it's a well-deserved honor. And I'm fortunate to call her my friend. Thank you.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. It was cool to hear from one professional sports team today, but one of the other ones that played is out at the Willoughby Community Park soccer stadium there. Wasn't here, but I wanted to sort of give the shout out on their behalf that as a result of their success in the Canadian Championship soccer tournament, they played the Whitecaps at BC Place. It was a hard-fought game, really entertaining. They made the CONCACAF Champions Cup. If anybody's familiar with soccer, it's the North American version of the UEFA Champions League. And on February 4th, up at Willoughby Community Stadium, they will be hosting Cruz Azul, which is a team based out of Mexico and one of the most storied, largest clubs in all of North America. It's going to be a absolutely unbelievable atmosphere. Their fans travel so well. It's going to be really cool to see that stadium packed, and we wish the Eagles, VFC, all the best. Good luck, because after that game, they head back over to Mexico to play in the second leg, and they're going to need all of our support. So, best of luck.
Councillor Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, I think, I didn't mean to speak about the BFC facility, but that's another, a great facility we built in that community, and all the more power to the football club and their organization as well. It's a great sport. Also, Councillor Barton's mentioned the Citizen of the Year, or whatever the exact name of it, Karen Long. She's done an awful lot. I've known her for years. She's a hard worker, and she really believes in the community. Has worked hard over the years. Things we were, myself and many council member, you and Mr. Mayor, were at the firefighters appreciation dinner at George Preston on Saturday as well. Myself and my wife came, as well as yourself, I think Councillor Bailey, Councillor, I think Whitmarsh and Martins, and who did I miss? Anybody? My wife was there. Oh, anyway, it was a great event, and we certainly supported a number of, who did I miss?
Councillor Rent was there as well.
Were you there? Oh, Councillor Rent as well, sorry about that. It's
Councillor
hard to
Pratt
miss.
was also there, yeah.
My apologies, Councillor
If you're
Rent.
going to do that, Councillor Ferguson, you got to make a list first.
Okay, time to move on, okay. But prior to that, the week before that, we were at the Fraser Valley Italo-Canadian Christmas event. Myself, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bigley, my wife were there as well, so I hope I didn't miss anybody on that one. It was a great event, and Italo-Canadian community is also big contributors to the Langley Event Center. At day one, they were there as one of the contributors to the facility. I did want to say, back to Metro things, on the news and advertisement, they're talking about nitric oxide cylinders that are advertised now by Metro Vancouver. Please be careful with those. Those can be beauty projects, performance projects, health industry projects. They must be disposed of properly. Otherwise, if they're placed in the wrong areas, they can explode. So we're trying to get that out, and it's very, very difficult on our facilities and equipment, and could be expensive. Those are my comments for now, Mr. Mayor. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I also was at the Italo-Canadian event, and for me, it's very interesting. Being half Italian, it's like going over to Zia and Zio's house for Christmas, and it's always very enjoyable having those talks from the other side of my family. Everyone thinks I'm just Irish, so that was fun. But I want to take my a tip of the hat to the Vancouver Giants. Over the last 2 nights, first they had the teddy bear toss, and then they had the toy drive in concert with the Langley Township firefighters, and thousands and thousands of toys were going to the Christmas Bureau, and it was a lot of fun. We got Santa and I got hit by a few bears as we were coming out onto the ice, but I just take my hat off to sports teams like the Bandits were here earlier, but the Giants, well done. There's thousands and thousands of children that are going to benefit and have a better Christmas because of what they did over the last 2 nights.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, Councillor Ferguson mentioned, yes, on Saturday it was the annual IFF appreciation dinner with new recruits receiving their badges, a number of promotions, people receiving their 20, 25, 30, and 35-year recognitions, 2 35-year recognitions as well, which is fabulous, and it was a pleasure to be there. And as I said then, it's the honor of mayor and council to be there, to be invited and involved so much in the ceremony. Also, it was great to say a few words to start off the Aldergrove Parade. I know we were all a little disappointed to have to choose, and not maybe some of us didn't make it into the parade this year. I'm hopeful we can see if that can be coordinated better for next year. And really appreciate all the volunteers in Aldergrove that put that on and make that happen for Aldergrove every year. And if I forget, but I'll try not to, under other business, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays here coming up over the Christmas holiday season. So with that, I'll move on to items for information. We'll certainly get on to P1 to 4 and address those, but is there any questions or concerns about 1 to 6? All right, so we'll start processing those. Ms. Bauer, I'd like to combine P1 and P2. May as well do that as one motion. So I'll move it that council add the Old Yale Barn to the township's community heritage register and pursue heritage designation of the Old Yale Barn, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on that? Yeah, over the weekend I did get a chance to catch up with the statement of significance. Pretty good, cool to see that. Good to see the work, and certainly appreciate the people that are Airline Heritage Society and others that are getting that done, and certainly great to see this registered and confirmed. So with that, I'll call the question on P1 combined with P2. And that carries unanimously. I'll move P3, seconded by Councillor Rint. And is there any questions or discussion on P3? Seeing none, call the question on P3. That carries unanimously. And P4, I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any questions or discussion on P4? Seeing none, call the question on P4. Great, that carries unanimously. Is there anything else under items for information? Seeing none, we'll move to Q2. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any questions or discussion on Q2? Well, Councillor Martins.
Thank you. A question, if I can, to the chair or staff. Item number 2, so this is about the Walnut Grove Park improvements. Now I know at the June 23rd council meeting, regular council meeting, we had the report that's also attached in this agenda package, and council approved the stage 1 improvements, that they be referred to the 2026 capital budget for 5.9 million. So the items in number 2 is this 5.1 million, I believe is what I added up here. Are they over and above what was already referred to the budget from the June 23rd motion?
Yes, I'm going to clarify. You wouldn't be adding the 3 numbers together. The total funding request here is 2.55, broken out into those 2 funding sources.
Okay.
So it is a partial pre-approval of that original report, but I think it'd be appropriate for Mr. Winsley and his group to answer that question more fully of what's in that funding request.
Thank you, Mayor Woodward. I'll probably refer to Mr. Groves for the specifics of exactly which is in which.
So through your worship to Councillor Martins, the things that are included in this 2.55 partial amount would be ball field improvements that can happen before the ball season, so by the end of March. And that would include things like the improvements to the dugouts and bleachers and fencing, outfield fencing, warning tracks, those kind of things. It does not include lighting improvements and electrical because we can't accomplish that quickly. So this is just to do the works that are possible before April.
Gotcha. So essentially, and I apologize, Mr. Mayor, with the incorrect math there. So the 2.55 million,
No problem.
it's part of what we had already referred to capital budget,
So
to the
it's my
budget.
My expectation that council would hopefully support this so that staff can meet the timelines for all the requirements around design, tendering, and other things to accomplish these prior to this year's season. So I think that was the idea back in the summer, and that the balance of that endorsement would be within the budget for council's consideration.
Okay, excellent. And I asked those questions only from a number of communications from members of the community concerned about the removal of that, the soccer field there. So this isn't part of that at all.
Yeah, so I think it's a great question to raise. I read that feedback as well. That is not contained within this pre-approval. That will continue to be contemplated by council, given that feedback been received on this agenda. I think there's maybe some work to do on processing that feedback in the future. Also highlighting, however, that the school district does have a field of significant size of its own as part of that park. So, but we did hear that loud and clear, and I think staff could also clarify that the turf field that potentially is being replaced with another turf field of a different configuration that could accommodate a lot of their physical education needs. Mr. Gross, maybe, or Mr. Winsley, maybe you could confirm that that's been integrated into the process that maybe wasn't evident from the public consultation package.
Yes, Your Worship, I just wanted to clarify that. We actually would be increasing the amount of turf on the site from the current 6,700 square meters to adding another 3,500 square meters. So during ball season, there would be outfield fences that would intercept some of that. But outside of ball season, there'd be much larger turf field for access to the school district if they booked it, or to the public. And even during ball season, there would be enough space for use in between the fields.
Thank you. Yeah, and I feel the feedback was greater than that. Walnut Grove, it's a community park. It's not it's supposed to be a sports-specific campus, historically anyways, and I know it is very well used by residents in Walnut Grove. I do appreciate that a lot of the feedback came from the school, but the kids in that school live in Walnut Grove and their families, and I did hear from family members who were quite concerned about the impact it would have for the community at large, and not just the school district specifically. So those are my thoughts, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So I thank you very much for the clarification, and I support getting on with this so these improvements can be made in time for ball season.
So it's these are great comments, great feedback, and I heard some similar things that we've inherited and the community has put in place. Walnut Grove Community Park, which has ball diamonds and a turf soccer field that we're dealing with. And if you want to change that and revert it back to something else, you can certainly do that. I think we're facing feedback from, that which we could expect, that people that are educators and other people at the school every day recognize that the township maybe have better facilities than the school district. So this is something that we're dealing with, I think, a lot, that there's an expectation that if it's there being provided for the students, which are residents of the Township of Langley, that we continue to work with that. So they do have a large field behind the school, which they could choose to take a bit better care of if they so wished. I think we're looking to accommodate all of these needs. We've heard from user groups there. We've heard from others that maybe don't need it as a dedicated soccer field the way they used to, given other investments. There's a lot of good things that could potentially happen there, I think, around that particular reconfiguration and accommodate that input. I also saw some of the feedback that some assumptions are being made that I think maybe aren't fully there, and we can work on continuing to consult potentially before any more investments are made in any direction whatsoever. So I totally appreciate that very much. I think that there is definitely potentially some more work to do. So with that, also very happy to see on here number 1, which we haven't touched on, to see that advancing through parks development cost charges mostly, and having staff get that underway as soon as possible to be completed in 2026. It's great to be finally on a path to finishing Yorkson Community Park. As we've said before and a couple other times, the previous plan was 15 years. This plan is getting it done now. So we really do think that's great. not to leave parks half-finished for 15 years. So I think this is great to finally get done. So I'll move forward with, call the question on Q2. That carries unanimously. Q3, I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any other discussion on Q3? Great, call the question on Q3. That carries unanimously. Q4, I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any questions or discussion on Q4? Seeing none, call the question on Q4. Carries unanimously. Q5, service level improvements with replacement fire hall number 5. I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any other questions or discussion on this? Definitely looking forward to getting this report documented. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of improvements due to this fire hall coming online in 2026. The firefighters, the staff it are now budgeted for theoretically once we confirm how that's going to work in 2026. So looking very much forward to getting this information on the significant positive impact this is going to have after so many years. First fire hall in 20 years and significant improvement in public safety for a huge portion of our township. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, an awful lot of people don't understand exactly what building and staffing this hall with career firefighters is going to result in. And I'm really glad to see that this is going to be put into a report to council, especially when things like the insurance rates and especially taking down response times from 15 minutes and over to where they're supposed to be in the 4 to 6 minute range. So I'm really glad to see that this report is going to come to council so people can fully understand the implications of that hall being built and staffed.
Right, that'll call the question on Q5. That carries unanimously. Q6, I'll move that, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any questions or discussion on Q6? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yeah, just a question through the staff about the interim nature of this detention servicing. What is the expected length of interim mean, and is there any other insights that we would have as to why this is the permanent has taken so long and nothing's happened? Maybe it's just a bit more detail for us.
Your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, I think the intent would be to cover some of the items that you're asking in the report to council. Since it is a report to council, we'd be looking at the potential consideration of any interim options, what currently the status is, and then seek council direction at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Call the question on Q6. That carries unanimously. Councillor Bailey, Q8.
I'd like to move Q8.
Is there a seconder to Q8? Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm looking for a report because I'm getting calls and different aspects dealing with this, so I'm not going to even pretend to be an expert in this field, and I would like to get a report from the staff on is this a good idea or is this not a good idea, because I'm getting both sides of this, and I'd like to find out exactly from staff what their recommendations on this would be.
Any questions or discussion on Q8? Seeing none, call the question on Q8. That carries with Councillor Rint opposed. Is there any other business? Ms. Bauer, I had a motion. I think we should get going with some budget consultation. Can you bring that up, please? Great. I'll move that. Council directs, seconded by Councillor Ferguson, direct staff to undertake public consultation to be completed, and the results sent to council on the January 26th meeting. Is there any questions or discussion on that? Seeing none, call a question on that. That carries unanimously. Is there any other business? Ms. Bauer, if you could bring that down, please. Bring that down. Yeah. Great. Is there any other business? No, seeing none. I want to wish everybody happy holidays and especially a Merry Christmas. Oh, Councillor Ferguson's, you're going to have to say something now if you're going to put that on. Nobody knows that you're wearing it. You have to
Okay,
request, you have to request to speak. There you go. So I want to wish everybody that, all members of council that. I want to congratulate again Councillor Whitmarsh here, winning an election, by-election here this year, a full council yet again. Not tonight, but theoretically, full council. Definitely appreciate that. Some have gotten their holidays underway a bit early. But overall, wishing everyone a great holiday season, seeing you back here in January. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm going to spend most of my holidays working. But I'll try to maybe take a few days off. There's a lot to prepare for in 2026, wouldn't you say? So I wish everybody a restful Merry Christmas and happy holidays and a beautiful and happy New Year. I think it's been great. I'll be covering here on making some announcements soon and some other things coming up before Christmas around some of the great things we've actually accomplished here the last couple of years, but especially in 2025. Put together a nice recap for everybody. It's remarkable when you look at the list of all the things that this council has accomplished. We accomplished so much, I think we forget some of it. And it's been great and fabulous to be able to review that list coming up here for the end of 2025. And I want to thank everyone here for all of their participation. Take note that a lot of the votes here are actually what we saw tonight, unanimous or pretty close to it. And I very much appreciate everybody's input on decision-making here. And again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a great New Year. Councillor Ferguson, you've got to say something now that
Merry
you've got this
Christmas.
on.
Feliz Navidad. Joyeux Noël.
Great stuff. As only Councillor Ferguson can do. Does anybody have any items for closed? Seeing none, get a motion to resolve in a special close moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Bailey. All those in favor, opposed, that's carried. Get a motion to terminate. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Rent. All those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. Thank you.